Sup everyone, welcome to another video. And in yesterday's video I reacted to Vars2's review of the elemental reactions, and he went through all of them, and I kind of gave my inputs here and there where I thought it was necessary. After looking at the comments and seeing people's response to that video, I guess it's weird, it's like a response to the reaction to someone else's video, but it's given me an idea, and I've seen a lot of people kind of hampering this idea home, which is that Crystallize is in a state that right now no other elemental reaction has ever been in and likely ever will be in. The next closest reaction that we have to Crystallize is most likely Superconduct, and it's for a completely different reason. While Superconduct in the right environment works perfectly fine, it's just that those environments and the scenarios where that is applicable is scarce. Very rare to see, Superconduct come up, but the reaction itself isn't that flawed. Whereas Crystallize is flawed. It's a flawed reaction because it focuses on defense, and even when it focuses on defense, it doesn't do it well. It's not unique enough, if that makes any sense. So let's take a similar reaction, or at least concept of reaction, such as Swirl, and evaluate these two. When you look at Swirl, right, what does Swirl do? Swirl kind of takes elemental reactions and kind of spreads them amongst other enemies who are caught in the swirl. Well, not elemental reaction, they take elements that are applied, and then they can spread that element onto other enemies. That's why oftentimes swirls, you'll see them have a good or decent range of area of effect, and that's what swirl is. Swirl is not really used for single target, right? Now that in of itself, while it's okay, nobody would really be like, wow, that's impressive, that's broken. But what makes Swirl broken is the fact that combining that effect with the Viridescent set, now you have something that reduces the resistances of enemies, which in turn amplifies damage for you and helps you clear content faster, right? So at the end of the day, that's what Swirl does. And of course, combine that with some amazing Swirl characters or Anemo characters that are able to group large amount of enemies, Kazuha, Venti, Sucrose. The compounding effects of this reaction can now come to light and really dominate the game. When you look at Crystallize, Hoyoverse tried to go through a similar concept through the Archaic Petra set, if you guys know that set that nobody uses, but it exists because at the early stages of Genshin Impact, Hoyoverse had envisioned for Geo to be this semi-defensive offensive option. But what they failed to realize is that at every single possible avenue in the game, I mean, I quite literally mean every single possible avenue, when combat is existent, the incentive has always been to kill the enemies as fast as you humanly can, right? No matter if you look at Abyss or if you look at certain events, everything, there's not a single thing that says you have to survive for a certain amount of time. It's always like you have to kill the enemy before this timer finishes, or you have to kill the enemies within a certain time frame that we've given you to achieve a certain score for this event so you can get XYZ rewards. It's always about how fast you can kill the enemies. So by an extension of that, how do you think a hybrid offense defensive reaction is going to play out among the meta? And I've mentioned this many times in the past, that given two options, no matter how different these two options are, they could be like very close to each other or they can be very far. Players will always choose the best option. So let's just pretend that Crystallize is just like the next best thing to Swirl in terms of damage amplification. If it's even weaker than Swirl by like 5-10%, people are going to choose Swirl, let alone it's weaker by, like, at this point, I don't even know how bad this thing is compared. It's terrible. I don't think it's going to be very relevant when it comes to damage amplification. Like Hoyoverse relied on, oh, if you pick up a Crystallized shield and you, the character of that shield element or something like that, you gain like 35% elemental damage to the elemental typing of the shield that you pick up for like 10 seconds or something like that, right? Like, but my point here is like, that is such a convoluted way and like roundabout way essentially to go about giving you, to be honest, in modern day time, a pretty minuscule amount of buff for a very negligible amount of time. It's just everything combined together doesn't really play out. And on top of that, the effects of Crystallize is a simple, flimsy mono elemental shield. I mean, we have other mono elemental shields in the game from certain characters that are resistant towards that type of element. For example, Jinyan shields, Toma's shield, right? We even have Layla's shields now. They have Fiona's shield. They're all better than Crystallize. When you have a reaction whose effect can be usurped by other even 4-star characters when it comes to its efficiency, you start to have a serious problem on your hand, because this reaction then starts to lose its effectiveness. I have played this game for 2.5 years at this point, and I'll be completely honest with you, I don't think there has been ever a time where I even remotely thought that Crystallize would help me in this current situation. Now, you guys might be able to comment down below, like, Walrus, when I first started the game, right, I had no shielders, and when I saw Crystallize, I breathed a sigh of relief. I was like, oh, thank goodness, finally something to protect me from the ever dangers of Teyvat. But understand, that may be a very short-lived period of your Genshin career. Sure, maybe a very, very new player who plays a game, who really hates getting hurt, and who really does not like when their attacks are interrupted and they don't know the attack patterns of the enemies and stuff like that. Maybe Crystallize can kind of cradle your way through the first like 20-30 ARs. But once you get past that point, I mean, even during the early days, you're probably killing enemies extremely fast. You can left click them 3-4 times and they were gonna die. You can mix most reactions together, they're gonna die. And with modern day Genshin, with Dendro, if you have any sort of Dendro reactions going on screen, they're gonna die, right? And look at Hoyoverse's development path right now for the modern Genshin stuff. Look at the Dendro stuff. It's all incentivized towards making it easier, making things more accessible to newer players, right? At lower cost of entry. Then you look at Crystallize, where we give you a shield, a very, very weak shield that doesn't stack, right? So this is the thing that I propose, and if you guys don't want to hear what I propose, it's fine. This video pretty much ends here for you guys, but I'm gonna talk a little bit about Crystallize and how Hoyoverse can potentially go about to reshape it, fine-tune it. It doesn't even have to be a complete overhaul. The identity can stay. We can stay with the shielding theme here, okay? Now let's get into it. This is me, Walrus, how I feel like Crystallize can truly find its role in the game. And that is by starting to let Crystallize shields be the only stackable shields in the game. Right, so the Crystallize reaction goes like this. The new one. Upon picking up Crystallize shields, or just once the reaction happens, you automatically gain the shield is a better way to do it, in my opinion, because the fact that players have to run towards where the shield drops, it's just a loss of DPS. Like, upon already foregoing the option of swirl and viridescence, you're choosing Crystallize, remember that, right? And then you have to then run to wherever the thing dropped. That's a problematic situation, because a lot of the modern day characters that really want shields, like Yoimiya, Ganyu, they're range characters. They stay from afar, they deal damage like pew pew pew. So I think Crystallize shields firstly should be applied on the character that procs it, or on-field character. You should immediately gain the shield. And secondly, multiple shields can be stacked of different element. That's the catch here, right? Yes, you can have Pyro shield, but you can only have one Pyro shield at a time, and then you can have a Cryo shield, you can have a Hydro shield, and all the good stuff, right? And once you have more than 3 different types of shields, or 3 and above, gain a huge damage bonus or some sort of bonuses to your offensive capabilities, meaning now you can switch defense into offense, and on top of that, your shield evolves. So once you get 3 shields, it evolves into a unique shield, not Zhongli level, but it kind of is a shield that can have resistances towards the 3 element that you have absorbed. And once that shield levels up, its HP is refreshed and you get a prolonged shield. So this way, what this offers is you can pair offensive geo units that can proc Crystallize very easily, such as Albedo, to most offensive teams, and he actually is a damage gain. Albedo is more of a damage gain than Zhongli is for most scenarios, right? And combine that with the offensive capability of fully like stacking 3 different Crystallize shields, gaining that special unique offensive bonus, as well as a new refresh shield. Now your shielding is holding up. It's not going to be able to tank, let's say, a strong one-shot hit from the Abyss. Maybe it's going to break. However, it's more than enough for you to get through most of the content in the game. It still leaves a position for Zhongli in the game as well, being his shield is still just much more simplified and doesn't require 3 different elemental shields, right? Think of scenarios where you're able to proc 3 different elemental Crystallize shields. It's not that many, and if you can find a way to do it, it's going to have to rely on the enemy's element as well. So it's not something that you can control as well as even swirl. So think about it like this. even with the one I just described, you guys might think, oh, that sounds kind of broken. Think about it like this. Even with that situation, you are not going to outperform the consistency and the shred that Viridescence provides. But the difference here is you are now actually getting a sense of both hybrid offense and defense capabilities when it comes to a single reaction. Now, also remember, I've said in the past that Hoyoverse is consistently trying to consolidate roles in the game, meaning one character doing more than one role, even 2-3 roles, is not out of the question in modern Genshin Impact. So in the future, this is without a doubt that Hoyoverse is going to revamp Crystallize. I don't see them leaving Crystallize in this position until the server closes. It's just leaving a lot of money on the table. They can't really play around an entire reaction that's designed for the game. That's like, for them, millions of dollars just left out to dry, when the fix could probably cost them like a fraction of the cost that they will be losing if they don't fix this current reaction. There's a lot of Geo enthusiasts out there who would even sponsor Hoyoverse to fix the crystallized reaction, right? Which leads me to my final point: opportunities. The amount of Geo characters that Hoyoverse can release right now is extremely limited to the fact that they cannot utilize the crystallized reaction for any sort of benefits. And now they can simply release a character like Nilou, but for Geo and Crystallize, being like super Crystallize, right? And have that character fix Crystallize, and if you want to play Crystallize, you just play that character. But that's like a one-time deal thing. Like, why don't you just fix the elemental reaction and then make 10, 12, 15 different Crystallize centric characters that are kind of pivoting towards different unique aspects of Crystallize and whatnot, right? You can even make Super Crystallize after you fix Crystallize, right? You can make it an even better version of Crystallize. So yes, people, I do see your comments. I do understand the frustration for people who want to see Crystallize fixed. In my honest opinion, Crystallize currently is in a worse position than even Electro was before the Dendro element was released. Now, comment down below, what do you guys think of Crystallize? Do you guys think it needs a buff? If you say it doesn't and it's fine the way it is, you're actually just hard trolling, okay? I'm not gonna even ask you if it needs it. It needs it. How do you think Crystallize should be adjusted for the game? All right, looking forward to seeing your comments. Until next time, remember to stay safe. Peace, peace. Bye.